In the previous clip, we downloaded some test data to work with and decided that we want to transform the arrays coming from the API into objects first. To work through the function needed to do that task, we're going to introduce a testing framework, Just. Just is a one-stop shop when it comes to testing. It comes ready with expectation syntax, mocks, and a powerful runner. Yarn add -- div just. And in package.json, let's add a script for the test runner. So it's just, and we'll do -- watch to start just in watch mode and have it run the relevant tests every time we make changes. So now we can start the runner with yarn test. So we have our test data, and now we want an interface on this test data. Let's create a file under lib, call that file data_api.js. And in here, we'll design our data API interface. We'll make this data API into a class, data API, and we'll just export this class. And in this class, we'll have two APIs, get articles and get authors. Before we write any code, let's write some tests. Under the same lib directory, let's create a folder, __tests__. This is one of the special locations where Jest looks for tests by default. Under tests, we'll create a new file, and in here, let's match the name that we're trying to test, data_api.js. Jest will detect this file, but I don't have any tests yet, so let's write some. The syntax here is simple. We're going to describe data API, and inside data API, we're going to expect it to expose articles as an object, and we're also expecting it to expose authors as an object as well. We need to import the data API class from up1level data API. We need to also import the test data, which is a property here on the file that we downloaded. So we're importing this from up1level test data. And now we'll do the interface step. So we'll do an API constant, and in here, we'll instantiate an object from the data API. And let's just pass it the test data. And let's assume that the API internally is going to handle the conversion of data from arrays into objects. So inside the expose articles as an object test, we'll bring in the articles from the API, api.getArticles. We'll also read two things from the raw data. From the first element in data.articles, we're reading the ID and the title for that article. And now we can do some expectations here based on that data. I'll do two expectations. The first expectation, I'm expecting articles, which I'm reading from the API, to have a property of article ID because I'm expecting the articles to be an object now instead of an array. The other expectation is to try and read the title out of this object and match it to the original title that we're seeing in the raw data. And we'll do the exact same expectations for the author object, but with the author data as well. So we're expecting the authors to be an object that has a property of one of the author IDs, and we're expecting this object to have the exact same properties for every author. If we save now, Just will fail because we have not implemented anything yet. And it looks like ESLint is not happy about describe and et and expect. So just actually define everything underlined here as global variables. So to make ESLint happy about those, we need to tell it that we are using Jest, and we can do that by just adding just true here in the configuration. All these errors should go away. So now that we have failing tests for the expectations that we just designed here, we can now write our conversion interface with confidence. So first, I know that I'm going to get the data in the constructor here. We'll call that raw data. And in here, let's just put it as an instance property. Raw data is raw data. Now, since raw data.articles is going to be an array and raw data.authors is going to be an array, let's write a map into object function and assume that this function is going to receive an array. And this function will return the array mapped into an object. And we'll go ahead and use this function. In getArticles, we're going to return this.map into object. And here pass this.rawData.articles. And similarly, for the getAuthors, we're going to map into object this.rawData.authors. We're still failing because we have not implemented map into object. Map into object is actually very simple. We can reduce the array using the reduce syntax, which gives us two things. It gives us the accumulator and the current element. And what we want to do here is we want to change the accumulator using the current element.id and assign this ID the current element itself. We need to return the accumulator. And the starting point for this is just an empty object. So let's test. And the tests are passing now.